Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it?
Let's get right into it.
Imagine this scenario. You've just flown like 15 hours across the globe.
Oh yeah, you're totally exhausted.
Exactly. And you step out of the terminal at Panglao International Airport into just this wall of 90-degree heat.
And like 90% humidity.
Right. You're sweating right through your shirt, you're pulling your luggage, and you just take out your phone to order an Uber or Grab.
Because that's what you do everywhere else.
Right, to whisk you away to your beachfront paradise. But you stare at the screen, and the app is just dead.
Nothing.
No cars.
Yeah.
You are completely stranded, staring at this line of drivers quoting you prices that feel, honestly, weirdly close to what you'd pay in New York.
Yeah, the fantasy just pops right there.
It totally evaporates into a cloud of exhaust and haggling. So today, we are looking at Bohol in the Philippines.
A fascinating spot.
It is. And on a map, especially for this 2026 and 2027 season, it looks like this compact, really easy win.
It looks so simple.
Right, you see the famous chocolate hills, you see the pristine beaches of Panglao, and you just assume you can stroll between your hotel, the sand, and the sights.
Which is a huge mistake.
A massive mistake.
Yeah.
Because the reality involves these heavily spread out attractions, wild variations in hotel pricing, tricky ferry logistics, and just constant movement.
Yeah, a lot of movement.
So if you're planning a trip and want the honest, is it worth it verdict before you book, follow the show on Spotify or Apple.
Our mission today for this deep dive is to completely deconstruct the Bohol experience.
Break it all down.
Exactly. We are going to provide this meticulous, really granular audit of the logistics, the budgets, and the actual strategic planning you need to survive and enjoy this island.
Because the social media reels don't show you the reality.
They really don't. They strip all that away. They don't show you the 2-hour van rides or the sheer friction of navigating local infrastructure.
Right.
So we want to arm you with practical due diligence. You need to know what you're walking into, what it costs when things go wrong, and whether seeing a tarsier or snorkeling at Balicasag actually justifies all that effort.
And I want to tackle a massive contrarian claim right out of the gate here.
Let's do it.
There is this pervasive assumption online that Bohol is this bite-sized, high-value, effortless destination.
The whole just show up pitch.
Yeah. The pitch that you just drop your bags and paradise is handed to you on a silver platter. But going through the research, this idea of Bohol as a single, walkable resort town is a complete fabrication.
Oh, 100%.
We have to dismantle this immediately. Treating Bohol like a compact resort it's like going to a massive amusement park and realizing the roller coasters you want to ride are in completely different zip codes.
That is the perfect analogy, because the geography of this destination dictates every single thing you will do.
And how exhausted you'll be doing it.
Exactly. Bohol is fundamentally a movement island. It is not a centralized hub at all.
No.
The attractions that actually put it on the map, like the chocolate hills, the tarsier sanctuaries, the Loboc River, the beaches, they're scattered across a surprisingly large landmass.
It's way bigger than people think.
Yeah, and when you fly in, you aren't even landing on the main island of Bohol.
Wait, really? Explain that.
Yeah, so you're landing on Panglao. It's a smaller, separate limestone island right at the southwestern tip.
Okay.
And it's connected to the mainland by bridges. So Panglao acts as your convenience base. It's where almost all the tourist infrastructure, the big resorts, the nightlife, it's all concentrated there.
Okay, so you have Panglao as the base camp, and then you cross the bridge and you hit Tagbilaran.
Right.
But for a tourist, Tagbilaran isn't really a destination, right? It's just a bustling port city.
Yeah, it's the practical hub. It's where the ferries dock, where the major hospitals and malls are. You don't go there for the vibe.
So if you want atmosphere, you have to keep moving.
Yeah.
You push inland, and eventually you hit Loboc.
And Loboc is where the landscape totally shifts. You leave that coastal heat and enter this lush, quiet river environment.
Sounds beautiful.
It is, but it is deeply inland.
Oh.
And if you keep driving north from Loboc, pushing way up into the interior, you finally hit Carmen.
And Carmen is where the chocolate hills are.
Exactly. It's the municipality with the main viewing deck.
Okay.
And then if you look completely in the opposite direction, on the far eastern edge of the main island, you have Anconda.
Right, which our sources say is the quiet, distant alternative to Panglao.
Yeah, really beautiful beaches, but...
But it takes hours of driving to reach from the airport.
Exactly.
Hours.
So let's talk about the friction of actually arriving, because Honestly, the headline prices look incredibly seductive.
Oh, these flights look so cheap.
Right. Direct flights from Manila to Panglao run anywhere from $24 to $73 one way.
Which sounds fantastic.
It does. $24 to fly to a tropical island.
Yeah.
Or if you're already in the Visayas, you take a fast ferry from Cebu to Tagbilaran for like $13 to $23. Yeah, you see those numbers and think you're getting the cheapest vacation of your life.
But the entry prices are totally a loss leader.
Totally. The friction starts the literal second you try to move from your point of arrival to where you actually sleep.
Going back to that opening scenario.
Right. When you step out of Panglao Airport, ride-hailing apps do not operate there.
Which is wild in 2026.
I know. The local transport cooperatives control the flow of traffic, so you are forced into this environment of airport taxi counter pricing, or you're just haggling on the side of the road.
Ugh, the worst thing after a long flight.
And a simple taxi ride from the airport to Tagbilaran City will cost you $11 to $15.
Okay.
If you want to go to Alona Beach, which is the main tourist strip on Panglao, you're paying $13 to $18.
Wait, hang on. I just flew from Manila for $24.
Yeah.
And now I have to pay $18 for a 10-minute car ride to my hotel.
Yep.
That math feels incredibly frustrating if you're a budget traveler.
The disparity is jarring. It really is. And the alternative arrival route, taking the ferry into Tagbilaran Port from Cebu Pier 1, that has its own set of challenges.
Right, the ferry takes about 2 hours, right?
Yeah, via operators like OceanJet or Supercat. You arrive in a busy working port city, and you can use local transport to save money there.
Like the jeepneys.
Exactly. Local buses and jeepneys, which are those elongated open-air communal vehicles, they are incredibly cheap, often under $2 for a ride.
But taking a jeepney with a rolling suitcase sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It is entirely impractical for a normal tourist on a 5-day holiday.
Right, because they stop constantly.
Right.
Constantly. To pick up and drop off passengers, there's no rigid timetable, there's no air conditioning, and you are crammed in shoulder to shoulder.
So the cheap option basically eats your most valuable resource, your time.
Exactly.
And this geographical spread completely distorts the perceived cost of the attractions, too.
Oh, big time.
Because I see people looking up the chocolate hills online. They find out the entrance fee at the Carmen viewpoint is only like $2 to $3.
Right.
And they think, oh, this is going to be the cheapest day out ever.
But they are completely ignoring the spatial reality. Carmen is roughly 70 kilometers from Panglao.
70 kilometers.
Yes. And in local traffic conditions, navigating those winding interior roads passing through small municipalities, that is a 2-hour drive each way.
4 hours round trip.
Right. So the actual cost of the Chocolate Hills has almost nothing to do with that $3 ticket.
It's the transport.
It's the true financial and physical cost. Hiring the private van or car, paying the driver for the day, covering the fuel, enduring the midday heat, and on...
Fussing an entire day on the beach.
Exactly. Just to commute back and forth across the island.
So where does this leave us on the accommodation front? Because if the entry flights are cheap, the hotels are definitely not playing the same game.
Not at all. The hotel pricing on Panglao reflects a very mature, high-demand tourist market.
Okay.
If you are willing to stay in really basic guest houses away from the beach, you can find rooms for $15 to $35 a night.
Which is decent.
It is. But the moment you look at mainstream recognized resort brands, the numbers climb steeply.
Let's look at the 2026 sample dates.
Yeah, so Hainan Resort Alona Beach, which is massive and very centrally located, that sits around $81 a night.
Okay, not terrible.
But Oceanica Resort Panglao commands about $136. Emerita Resort jumps to $180.
Wow.
And South Palms Resort and Spa sits around $255 a night.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us to our first major definitive skip if signal for the listener.
Yes. Pay attention to this.
You should absolutely skip Bohol if your expectation of an island vacation is stepping out of a luxury lobby and having every major cultural site, restaurant, and boat dock within a pleasant 5-minute walking radius.
It's just not going to happen.
Right. If you expect seamless Silicon Valley ride-hailing apps to solve all your transport logistics, skip this island. Bohol demands effort.
It really does. The island rewards a very specific type of traveler.
What kind?
It rewards someone who groups their activities geographically.
Doing all the inland sites on one day.
Exactly. Inland on Tuesday, ocean activities on Wednesday. It rewards people who are willing to wake up early to beat the heat, who can negotiate transport calmly.
Without losing your temper.
Right. And who understand that picking one great inland experience and one great marine experience is vastly superior to a frantic, exhausted attempt to check off every single pin on a map.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
So once we accept that Bohol requires constant logistical effort and movement, the absolute most critical variable becomes when you choose to expend that effort.
The season.
Right, because being stuck in a van for 2 hours is one thing. Being stuck in a van for 2 hours during a torrential monsoon downpour, only to arrive at a viewpoint completely obscured by fog.
That's such a tragedy.
It's a total tragedy. So the weather dictates whether your movement is a joy or a punishment.
And the conventional wisdom, the clean, easy headline you read on every travel blog, is that the best weather window is February to May.
Right, they all say that.
Because during those months, you generally get consistent sunny conditions, the seas are relatively calm, and the underwater visibility for snorkeling or diving is at its absolute peak.
But convention doesn't really tell the whole story. I want to look at this meticulously. What happens when we break down the calendar month by month? Let's start with January.
So January is physically comfortable. The intense, oppressive heat hasn't really settled in yet.
Which is good for the tours.
It makes the countryside tours, like driving up to the Balicasag man-made forest or the Loboc River, much more pleasant in the mornings.
But there's a catch.
Always a catch. You are paying a premium for that comfort. Hotels around Alona Beach and the Tawala area hold tightly to their peak pricing because the residual demand from the Christmas and New Year holidays hasn't fully dissipated.
Holiday hangover pricing. What about February? It seems to be the golden child of the calendar.
February is arguably the strongest overall month of the year.
Really?
Yeah, the weather patterns stabilize significantly. You have lower humidity compared to the summer, and the sea conditions in the Bohol Sea are excellent.
Good for families, then.
Fantastic for families, especially if you need to guarantee that your scheduled boat days to see dolphins or snorkel at Balicasag actually happen.
Without suffering through extreme heat.
Right. And March continues this stable trend. Snorkeling remains world-class, but you will acutely feel the ambient heat starting to rise.
Okay, now April is fascinating because on paper, April sounds like the quintessential tropical beach month. But the data throws up massive warning flags. Why should someone be terrified of April?
Because April is when the environmental heat and the human logistical pressure just violently collide.
Oh boy.
The sun in April is absolutely punishing. You cannot underestimate how draining it is to walk up the steps to the Chocolate Hills viewing deck at 1 p.m. in April.
Just brutal.
But more critically, April coincides with massive domestic school holidays and the Holy Week spikes.
Right, the Philippines is a deeply Catholic country.
Exactly. And Holy Week triggers a massive migration of domestic tourists. The viewing decks become claustrophobic.
I can imagine.
The local seafood restaurants are packed, and the prices for transport and accommodation surge to their absolute highest points.
So avoid April if you hate crowds. Okay, moving into May. The sea is still good, but you can feel the atmosphere getting heavy.
May is the transition point. Still highly useful for marine activities, but the humidity spikes dramatically.
Like sweaty as soon as you shower kind of humidity.
Yes, and you start seeing the first scattered, unpredictable afternoon showers, which leads directly into June.
In June opens up a very interesting value window. It's noticeably cheaper, right?
It is. The crowds have thinned out because the peak season is over.
I look at June and I think, okay, half-price hotels, fewer crowds. Why wouldn't I just book June? What is the catch?
The catch is the meteorological risk. June marks the onset of the Habagat.
The southwest monsoon.
Exactly. The Habagat brings sustained, stronger winds from the southwest, which churns up the ocean.
Oh, so the boats.
The boats. If your entire vacation hinges on one specific, non-refundable island-hopping boat day, June is a severe gamble.
Because the little boats can't handle it.
The small outrigger boats, known locally as bankas, simply cannot safely navigate rough chop. The Coast Guard will literally ground them.
Wow. Okay, so July has a totally different kind of pressure.
July is unique due to the Sandugo Festival, which is centered in Tagbilaran.
Which is a cultural thing.
Yeah, it commemorates a historical blood compact. It fills the streets with vibrant parades, street dancing, incredible local energy.
Sounds amazing if you want culture.
It's fantastic for cultural immersion. But if your goal is getting from the airport to your resort quickly and quietly.
The traffic?
The festival traffic and road closures turn basic transport into a massive headache.
Got it. And then we hit the absolute nadir of the calendar, August and September.
August and September are the hardest months to recommend to a first-time visitor.
Just totally washed out.
The habitat season is fully entrenched. You face rougher seas, frequent torrential downpours, and severe itinerary uncertainty.
So no boat trips.
Or very miserable ones.
Yeah.
If you are prone to seasickness, or if you're desperately hoping for crystal clear underwater visibility, these months will severely test your patience.
And the ferries.
Ferries to and from Cebu are frequently delayed or canceled due to gale warnings.
Oof. All right, emerging from the monsoon, we find October. It's quieter, the value is still there, and the weather is slowly trying to stabilize. But our sources really highlight November as a hidden gem.
Yes.
Explain the mechanics of why November works so well.
November is the smart traveler's compromise. The heavy rains from the previous months have left the inland landscape incredibly lush, vivid, and green.
Oh, so the hills are actually green.
Exactly, which makes the countryside tours visually spectacular. Plus, the aggressive Christmas holiday crowds haven't arrived yet.
So prices are reasonable.
Very reasonable. And the ambient temperature makes touring far less harsh than in April.
And December.
December is a month of two halves. Early December shares the benefits of November, great weather, moderate crowds. Late December,
I'm guessing a nightmare for budget travelers.
practically impossible, extremely expensive, completely packed, requires booking months in advance.
So looking at this whole climatic picture, it begs a philosophical travel question for you. Is it better to risk a canceled boat tour in June because your resort room is half the price? Or do you pay top dollar in April just to sweat profusely while standing shoulder to shoulder with 1,000 other people on a viewing deck?
Right. And the conventional wisdom pushes everyone toward the dry season. But that's only the best choice if you possess an abundant budget and a very high tolerance for crowds.
Which a lot of people don't have.
Exactly. For a savvy value traveler, early November or even early June provides a vastly superior atmospheric experience. The island breathes. You don't feel like you're standing in a perpetual queue.
But there's a caveat.
A critical caveat. To pull off a shoulder season trip, you must have total psychological flexibility.
Meaning you can't throw a tantrum if your schedule gets blown up.
Precisely. You cannot treat an online, minute-by-minute itinerary as a rigid, unchangeable guarantee. If the Coast Guard grounds your boat on a Tuesday in June due to wind,
You calmly pivot.
you calmly pivot. You hire a van and spend the day at the Loboc River or visiting the tarsiers instead.
That flexibility also extends to understanding where the crowds actually go. Because the human pressure on Bohol isn't evenly distributed across the island.
No, it clusters in highly specific zones.
And ground zero is Alona Beach.
Alona Beach is the epicenter. It's the primary resort strip, the nightlife hub, the restaurant center.
So it's packed.
Consequently, yes, it suffers from the most concentrated crowding, the highest demand for tricycles, which drives up the prices, the most aggressive restaurant markups, and relentless tour selling pressure from touts walking up and down the sand.
So if your definition of a tropical vacation is peace and quiet.
Alona is the absolute worst place you could choose.
Wow. So where does the overflow go?
The overflow goes to Danao and Tawala, which are the neighborhoods immediately surrounding Alona.
Okay, so slightly less noise.
Slightly. But you're still in the orbit of the chaos. If you push out to Doljo or Momo beaches on the western side of Panglao, the environment completely shifts.
Nice and quiet.
Wonderfully calm. The water is shallow and quiet, and you feel isolated. But
There's a but.
that isolation creates immediate, absolute transport dependency. You cannot just step out of your resort and walk to a cheap local dinner.
You trap.
You're captive to the resort's restaurant, or you are forced to negotiate a tricycle ride back into Alona every single night.
And what about basing yourself inland? Like Loboc.
Loboc is incredible for its misty mornings and river access, but it makes getting to the Panglao beaches or the airport a much longer, more expensive trek.
And Carmen?
Carmen is purely a transit hub for tourists. It gets completely swarmed by vans and buses from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then just empties out.
And Tagbilaran.
Practical for long-term stays or medical access, but it offers zero beach vibe.
Okay, because of these highly specific zones, booking windows become critical. How far out do people need to commit?
If you are aiming for that prime February to May window and you care about being in a specific zone, say a quiet part of Danao, You must book your accommodations 6 to 10 weeks ahead.
6 to 10 weeks, got it.
If you are targeting Holy Week or the late December holidays, you need to book months in advance.
Or choose a different area.
Right. Deliberately choose alternative areas like Taoist or Ananda rather than indulging the fantasy that you will find a cheap last-minute steal right on Alona Beach.
We also need to talk about ferry booking windows, because treating the Cebu to Bohol ferry like a subway train is a recipe for disaster.
Yes. The local ferry operators and transport guides strictly advise arriving at the port terminal at least 60 minutes before your scheduled departure.
60 minutes.
Because the process involves ticket verification, paying a separate terminal fee, checking large bags, navigating crowded waiting areas.
It's not just walk on and sit down.
Not at all. And more importantly, even in the cheaper shoulder months, your ferries require a buffer in your itinerary.
Why?
A single localized weather cancellation can push your Cebu connection into the next day. These cancellations are not freak occurrences. They are a known, standard operational reality of navigating the Visayas.
Right, so we've mapped out the seasons, the weather risks, the geographical spread. Now we arrive at the most crucial decision, where you actually sleep.
The most important choice.
Because your accommodation choice on Bohol dictates whether you experience a tropical paradise or a daily logistical nightmare. Let's navigate this maze, starting at the bottom tier. The backpackers and budget travelers.
Okay.
We're looking at a bracket of $15 to $35 a night. What is the reality for these travelers?
The absolute first rule for the strict budget tier is abandoning the fantasy of a beachfront room in Alona.
Just let it go.
It does not exist at this price point in 2026. Budget travelers need to search in Tawala, Danao, and the deeper inland areas of Panglao.
So off the beach.
Right. During periods of lower demand, the inventory opens up. You can find simple guest houses, multi-bed hostels, small family-run hotels in that $15 to $35 range.
We looked at some specific properties. Expedia aggregates some extreme bare-bones options starting around $15.
Which is incredibly cheap.
Yeah. Moving slightly up, you have places like the Thistle in Panglao, hovering around $35, or the famous Bohol Bee Farm, which is known for its organic restaurant, sitting around $37 for basic rooms.
And Bohol Bee Farm is a great example of the trade-off.
How so?
It offers immense charm and great food, but it is built on a cliffside, not a sprawling sandy beach, and it requires transport to get into the main tourist hubs.
Which brings us to a massive friction point for budget travel, a trap that catches thousands of people every year.
The near Alona illusion.
I hate this one so much. You go on a booking site, you filter by price, and you see a listing that proudly states, only minutes from Alona Beach. You think, amazing, I'll save $30 a night and just enjoy a nice evening stroll to the bars. What does minutes from Alona actually look like on the ground in Panglao?
What the map doesn't show you is the infrastructure.
Right.
Minutes from Alona often translates to a hot, dusty, 20-minute walk along a narrow road that totally lacks paved sidewalks.
You're walking on the shoulder.
Walking on the shoulder while scooters and tricycles whiz past you. After dark, the street lighting is incredibly weak or non-existent, and you are literally dodging stray dogs and potholes.
I can tell you exactly what happens. You do that walk exactly one time, you get back to your room sweating, covered in dust, slightly terrified of the traffic, and for the rest of the trip, you absolutely refuse to walk.
Yep, you step out of your guest house and you hail a tricycle.
Every single time.
And that is the trap. Suddenly, you are paying a $2 to $4 tricycle fare each way, twice a day.
You've instituted a daily tricycle tax on yourself.
Exactly, which completely wipes out whatever money you thought you were saving on the cheaper room.
So who does the budget tier actually work for?
It really only functions effectively for travelers who are confident renting and driving their own scooters. That allows them to bypass the tricycle mafias entirely. Or for those who are perfectly content engaging in the exhausting ritual of haggling for a ride every single day.
Let's step up to the mid-range. This is where a vast majority of couples and standard vacationers land.
Right.
They're looking at roughly $66 to $126 a night.
Right. The mid-range unlocks the default tourist zones, Alona, Tawala, and Danao.
And there's a lot of inventory here.
Robust inventory. You have highly visible properties like Henan Tawala Resort, the sprawling Henan Resort, Alona Beach, Best Western plus the Ivy Wall, Blue Water Panglao, North Zen Villas.
But even at $100 a night, you are forced to make a compromise.
You are constantly weighing noise versus mobility.
Explain that.
Do you choose a property right in the pulsating heart of Alona Beach where you can effortlessly walk out of your lobby to 20 different restaurants?
Sounds great.
But you have to accept the ambient noise, the crowds, and the thumping bass from the beach bars lasting until midnight? Or do you choose a tranquil property in Danao where you get a quiet night's sleep, but you immediately reinstitute that transport dependency we just discussed?
Right. It's a tough choice. And this balancing act becomes terrifyingly complex when we look at families.
Oh, for families, the stakes are so much higher.
Because kids amplify every single logistical failure.
Every single one.
Explain the cheap room trap that destroys family budgets.
Okay, so a family of 4 is planning their trip. The parents see a 2-bedroom listed for $45 a night, located deep in the interior of Panglao.
They book it, thrilled by the savings.
Right, but they fail to analyze the physical environment of that room. The property is isolated, it doesn't have a reliable restaurant, and crucially, it doesn't have a swimming pool.
Oh, no. So they wake up on day one, the kids are hungry, there's no breakfast buffet.
Exactly. Every single meal now requires hiring a vehicle to reach a restaurant.
And the kids want to swim.
But there's no pool, so they have to pack up bags, towels, sunscreen, and hire a tricycle to take 4 people to a public beach.
Which is exhausting.
Every outing, every snack run requires negotiation and transport. The parents spend the entire vacation acting as amateur logistics coordinators.
They saved $60 a night on the pillow, but they bleed $80 a day on the pavement.
Beautifully put. For families, the room rate is a dangerous metric. The only metric that matters is the total daily spend after factoring in breakfast, pool access, required transport, and the cost of hiring private vans for countryside tours.
So where should families stay?
To do Bohol comfortably, families need to target Alona for sheer walkable convenience. Or Doljo if they want a massive self-contained resort where they never have to leave.
Or Dawes.
Yes, Dawes if they want larger apartment-style setups closer to Tagbilaran's amenities. In peak months, a family should honestly accept a baseline accommodation spend of $120 to $260 a night simply to buy their way out of daily transport stress.
I want to push on that concept of buying your way out of stress.
Okay.
What if we look at the luxury tier? We're talking $109 to well over $255 a night.
Places like Amarita Resort, perched on the cliff.
Right. The Bellevue Resort, Oceanica Resort Panglao, South Palms Resort, Modala Beach Resort. If I throw unlimited money at Bohol, does it solve the island?
Throwing money at Bohol solves the microenvironment, but it does not solve the macrogeography.
Meaning?
You must manage your expectations. Luxury in Bohol provides a highly comfortable base camp. It guarantees high thread count sheets, a spectacular infinity pool, flawless air conditioning, and a high-quality breakfast buffet.
Sounds amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
What it does not provide is the sprawling, hyper-secluded private villa density you find in Bali, or the absolute isolation of the Maldives.
And this is where I think luxury travelers get frustrated. You pay $300 a night for a gorgeous room, but you still want to see the tarsiers.
And to see the tarsiers, you still have to leave your gated sanctuary, get into a vehicle, and drive the exact same winding, traffic-heavy 2-hour road as the backpacker who paid $15 for their room.
You're all on the same road.
Luxury buys you a nicer van with better air conditioning, but it does not buy you a teleporter.
Good point.
You still have to prioritize your base. Do you want immediate access to a pristine, private stretch of sand? Do you want to be within a 10-minute drive of the airport for a fast exit? Or do you want to be positioned on the mainland in a boutique property to make the inland tours shorter?
You still have to choose.
You always have to choose.
So your accommodation choice immediately locks in your baseline burn rate, not just for the bed, but for the food and the transport required to survive your location. Let's dig into the daily budgets.
Yes, starting with the culinary divide.
Because eating in Bohol is an exercise in extreme contrasts.
It really is. The cost of your calories in Bohol is entirely dependent on your GPS coordinates.
Okay, give me an example.
If you are dining within the Panglao tourist zones, specifically along the Alona beach strip, you are paying heavily inflated tourist premiums.
Like how much?
A standard, unremarkable tourist meal like a basic plate of pasta or a mediocre burger will run you $5 to $10.
Okay.
If you sit down for a proper seafood main course, you are looking at $8 to $18. A decent cup of espresso-based coffee is $2.50 to $4.
That's creeping up.
Bottled water at these restaurants is marked up to 50 cents to $1.20. Local beers like San Miguel are $2 to $4. And if you want a familiar Western-style breakfast of eggs, bacon, and toast, expect to pay $6 to $12.
For someone coming from London or Los Angeles, those prices might sound fine.
Huh.
But in the context of the Philippines, that is incredibly expensive. What happens when you step off the sand?
The prices just plummet. If you venture into Tagbilaran, Loboc, or simply stop at roadside carinderias, the economics change entirely.
Let's explain the carinderia for a listener who has never been to the Visayas. How does this actually work?
A carinderia is a local, incredibly casual eatery. You'll see a series of metal pots or glass displays facing the street.
Is there a menu?
There are no printed menus. You walk up and you simply use the point and turo method. You literally point at what looks good.
What kind of food?
You'll find local staples like chicken adobo, sinigang, which is a sour tamarind soup grilled pork, and mountains of rice.
And the cost?
Because the food is pre-cooked and caters to the local working population, a full, filling local lunch will cost you somewhere between $2 and $5.
Wow. $2 to $5. But we should definitely mention the hygiene reality.
Absolutely. Apply common sense here.
Mhm.
Look for carinderias that have high turnover where lots of locals are actually eating.
So you know it's fresh.
Right, which ensures the food hasn't been sitting out in the heat for hours. And this is crucial. Never drink the tap water.
Okay, this brings us to the grocery run, which I think is the secret weapon for controlling your budget.
Oh, 100%.
If you go to the Bohol Quality Mall, or the Island City Mall in Tagbilaran, or even the 7-Eleven branches scattered around Panglao, what are the actual numbers?
So a large bottle of water at the supermarket is 80 cents to $1.50. You can buy a small pack of instant coffee sachets for under $1.
Nice.
Local fruit is a steal. A small bunch of bananas is $1 to $2, and mangoes, heavily depending on the season, are $2 to $4.
And the bakeries.
If you visit a local bakery called a panaderia, fresh rolls and sweetbreads are incredibly cheap, roughly 40 to 100 pesos for a snack, which is about 20 to 60 cents in US dollars.
So a general supermarket snack run for 2 people, loading up on chips and drinks, will cost you roughly $8 to $18.
Exactly.
But the supermarket is also where travelers encounter the most infuriating price shock.
The imported necessities.
The sunscreen trap.
Yes, the sunscreen trap.
Let's say you forget to pack sunscreen. You think, I'm on a tropical island, I'll just buy it here.
Huge mistake.
You walk into a pharmacy near Alona Beach, and you are confronted with North American prices.
We're talking $8 to $15 for a standard bottle of SPF 50.
$15 for sunscreen, and mosquito repellent will run you $3 to $7. It is a wildly ironic situation.
It really is.
You fly halfway across the world to leverage the buying power of a developing economy, and you end up blowing your daily food budget on a bottle of lotion because it has to be imported and transported to an island tourist zone.
That lack of strategic packing can devastate a tight budget.
Seriously. Let's quickly touch on tipping and dietary restrictions.
Sure. Tipping is appreciated in the Philippines, but it is not the rigid, mathematically exact mandate it is in the U.S.
So what's the rule of thumb?
In casual spots, rounding up the bill or leaving a few coins is fine. In sit-down restaurants, always check your receipt first. Many places include a mandatory service charge.
And if they don't?
If they don't, and the service was good, a 5 to 10% tip left in cash is polite and appropriate.
Okay. And a major warning for strict vegans. You look at a menu and see a dish of stir-fried morning glory or sautéed eggplant.
It looks entirely plant-based.
Right.
But the mechanics of Southeast Asian cooking rely heavily on hidden umami. That plate of vegetables has very likely been cooked with a splash of fish sauce, shrimp paste, or a chicken-based bouillon powder.
It happens quietly and constantly.
Constantly. If you are a strict vegan, you cannot rely on casual visual inspection. You must be hyper-vigilant in your questioning. And honestly, be prepared to self-cater if you require absolute certainty.
Okay, let's synthesize these micro costs into definitive daily budgets. We've established the rules, now give me the math. Let's start with the backpacker. The target is $45 to $75 a day. Walk me through a $75 day.
To survive on $75, the backpacker is spending $15 to $30 on accommodation.
So a hostel bed or basic fan room inland.
Right. Food is restricted to $10 to $18 a day. They are buying bakery bread for breakfast, eating at a carinderia for lunch, and avoiding beachfront restaurants for dinner.
And transport.
Transport is $8 to $15, which means they're renting a scooter long-term and paying a few dollars for fuel, bypassing tricycles entirely.
What about tours?
Tours are amortized to $8 to $20 a day, meaning they aren't taking boat trips every day. They do one countryside loop and one snorkeling trip over a week.
And the rest?
They maintain a strict buffer of $5 to $10 for bottled water, a local SIM card, parking fees, and small environmental tickets.
Hitting that $45 bottom end requires immense discipline. You have to be comfortable sweating on a scooter, and you have to aggressively decline every single upsell from the touts on the beach.
Exactly.
What about the mid-range traveler?
The mid-range sweet spot sits right around $140 per person per day, within a wider bracket of $110 to $170.
Assuming they're splitting costs with a partner.
Yes. Your accommodation share is $40 to $80, meaning you are sharing a nice $80 to $160 air-conditioned room with a pool.
Food jumps up a bit.
Food jumps to $25 to $45. This allows you to have resort coffee in the morning, a casual cafe lunch, and a genuinely nice sit-down seafood dinner with a beer.
Transport.
$15 to $35. This covers reliable airport transfers, occasional tricycle rides, and perhaps sharing the cost of a car for an inland trip.
And tours.
$20 to $50, giving you the freedom to book a proper island hopping package. And your buffer grows to $10 to $20 for tips, ATM fees, and sunscreen.
Now the family.
Wow.
2 adults, 2 children. The numbers scale brutally here.
Oh, they do. A family of 4 must budget $260 to $520 per day.
Wow.
Accommodation is $100 to $240 for a proper family suite or 2 connected rooms with mandatory pool access.
And food?
Food is $60 to $120.
Why is family food so high?
Because kids often refuse to eat local carinderia food.
Right.
Parents end up ordering familiar imported Western items, pizza, chicken nuggets, plain pasta, which carry the highest markups in the resort restaurants.
And transport is a massive line item for families, too.
$50 to $120. Families cannot hop on 4 separate scooters. They rely heavily on private, air-conditioned vans and direct hotel transfers to manage the kids' energy levels.
Tours run $40 to $120.
Because you are buying 4 tickets for every boat and viewpoint.
And the buffer.
The family buffer must be $20 to $50 for constant snack requests, emergency laundry runs, and pharmacy stops. A 6-night trip for a family will easily run $1,600 to $3,100 total, purely for on-the-ground expenses.
The luxury couple, they want total comfort.
Budget $300 to $650 per day combined. The room is $180 to $350 at the premier Panglao resorts.
Food is $70 to $150.
Covering massive resort breakfasts, high-end dinners, cocktails. Transport is $50 to $120, completely eliminating tricycles in favor of seamless, prearranged, private drivers.
Tours are $80 to $220.
Utilizing private boats instead of shared group tours. The buffer is $30 to $80. The value of this tier is entirely about paying a premium to eradicate friction and wait times.
And briefly, the digital nomad staying for a month.
Nomads should expect $1,450 to $2,650 a month. Rent is $550 to $1,300 for an apartment or long-stay guest house.
Food.
$450 to $750, relying heavily on groceries and utilizing cafes for Wi-Fi. Transport is $120 to $250, dominated by a monthly scooter rental rate. Co-working and SIM cards add $80 to $180.
And tours and leisure.
Run $150 to $350, with a buffer of $100 to $250. The biggest threat to a nomad isn't really the budget. It's selecting a base like Andama and realizing you are too isolated to maintain a social life or reliable internet.
Now we arrive at the most critical section of this deep dive. Even if you have mapped out your budget perfectly, selected the right month, and chosen the right hotel tier,
there are still traps.
There are 3 specific structural logistical traps in Bohol. If you fall into these, they will drain your wallet and ruin your morale.
Absolutely ruin it.
Let's dissect them. Trap number 1, the Alona walking distance illusion. We touched on the mechanism earlier, but let's go deeper.
So the mechanism relies on how digital mapping distorts physical reality.
Right.
A tourist looks at Google Maps, or a goda. They see a property located 1.5 kilometers from Alona Beach. In a city like Paris or Tokyo, a 1.5-kilometer walk is a delightful 20-minute stroll along paved sidewalks looking at shop windows.
But in Panglao, that exact same distance feels like a survival mission.
Because you are dealing with a completely different built environment, you are walking in 85% humidity.
Sweating instantly.
The road is often narrow, shared with heavy exhaust-spewing tricycles, tourist vans, and mopeds. There are no raised sidewalks.
You are walking on the dirt or gravel shoulder.
And crucially, at night, the street lighting is incredibly sparse. It is physically exhausting and mentally stressful, especially if you are wrangling children or returning from a bar after a few drinks.
So the illusion shatters on day one, and the financial penalty kicks in immediately.
The penalty is the mandatory tricycle fare. You end up paying $4 to $15 every single day in short, repetitive rides.
And those drivers know you are captive.
Oh, they know. If it's raining or if it's 11 p.m., the quoted price surges. The travelers who suffer most here are backpackers unwilling to rent scooters, families with young children, and solo travelers who feel unsafe walking unlit roads in the dark.
So the fix is brutal honesty during the booking phase.
Yeah.
You must use Street View if it's available.
Yes.
You must read the reviews specifically searching for the word walk. You either pay a higher upfront rate for a property physically located on the beach, or you mentally ring-fence a dedicated daily budget for tricycles.
Trap number 2 is arguably the most common mistake made by first-time visitors to any major island.
The countryside tour cram.
Yes, the cram.
This trap is born out of FOMO, the fear of missing out. You see a glossy brochure at your hotel reception. It offers a complete Bohol highlights tour.
And it promises the world.
It promises to show you the Chocolate Hills, the Tarsier Sanctuary, the Loboc River cruise, the Balar man-made forest, the Balicasag church, the hanging bamboo bridges, a waterfall swim, a souvenir shopping stop, and an ATV ride. All in one day.
The logic of the tourist is, I only have 3 days here, I must see everything.
But the mechanism of this trap ignores time and distance. As we established, the drive from Panglao to Carmen is roughly 2 hours.
Let's play out this disastrous day. You start your tour after a leisurely breakfast at 9 a.m.
That late start is the fatal error.
Fatal. By the time you reach the Balicasag church and the hanging bridges, it's 11 a.m. The heat is building. You arrive at the Loboc River for the buffet cruise at 12:30 p.m.
Right at the peak of the midday rush.
Standing in a massive queue of other tourist vans, by the time you finally drive up the winding roads to the Chocolate Hills viewing deck, it is 2:30 p.m.
The sun is at its most punishing. You are climbing hundreds of concrete steps.
The kids are crying.
You are sweating through your clothes.
Yeah.
You spend 10 minutes looking at the hills, take a miserable photo, and get back in the van utterly exhausted.
And you still have 3 stops left on the itinerary, plus a 2-hour drive back in late afternoon traffic.
And the financial penalty for the cram is severe.
$45 to $120 wasted.
Wasted.
You are paying for extended private driver hours, highly marked up food at the tourist traps, multiple entrance fees for sites you didn't actually enjoy, and expensive ATV add-ons.
You essentially pay $100 to torture yourself in a van.
Exactly.
So the fix requires ruthless editorial discipline. You must limit yourself to a maximum of 4 core stops.
4 max.
If you want to see the Chocolate Hills, you mandate a 7 a.m. departure from your hotel. You arrive at the hills when the air is cool and the viewing deck is empty. You visit the tarsiers, you do the river cruise, and you go back to your hotel to enjoy the pool.
Trap number 3 is the one that induces genuine panic.
The ferry buffer failure.
The mechanism of this trap is treating the fast ferries between Cebu and Tagbilaran like a predictable, weatherproof subway system.
Right.
A traveler looks at the schedule and sees ferries running every few hours. They book a ferry departing Bohol at 10 a.m., intending to catch a 3 p.m. international flight out of Mactan Cebu Airport.
That sounds like a reasonable 5-hour buffer.
Right.
But it's a massive gamble.
Because they are ignoring the habagat and the localized weather systems of the Visayas, the Bohol Sea is subject to rapid weather deterioration.
And when the wind picks up.
The Philippine Coast Guard does not hesitate to issue gale warnings. When a gale warning is issued, all sea travel is immediately suspended.
The boats do not leave the dock.
They do not leave.
The sources cite a very specific example of this from 2026.
Yes. During Tropical Storm Bazyang, all sea trips between Cebu and Bohol were completely grounded.
Imagine the scene at the Tagbilaran port. Hundreds of tourists staring at a canceled departure board, realizing their flights are leaving from another island.
And there is absolutely no physical way across the water.
The economics of a missed flight are catastrophic.
A simple weather delay inflicts a penalty of $60 to $180 in emergency costs.
Because you need a room.
Right. You are suddenly paying walk-in rates for a last-minute hotel in Tagbilaran, emergency taxis, and extra meals.
And if you miss the flight,
If you miss an international flight back to Europe or North America, you are looking at thousands of dollars in rebooking fees, effectively erasing every single cheap Caranderia meal or budget room, saving you accumulated over the entire trip.
so what is the ironclad rule here?
You must spend your final pre-flight night in the city of your departure. If your international flight leaves from Cebu, do not wake up in Bohol on the same day.
Take the ferry a day early.
Yes, book a hotel in Cebu City and sleep soundly. If you absolutely cannot afford the time or money to add a buffer night in Cebu, you should honestly skip Bohol as a side trip entirely. The anxiety is not worth the risk.
Dodging those three traps secures your wallet and your sanity. But we also need to address physical safety, managing expectations, and preparing for the honest disappointments.
Because if you know what is actually overhyped, you can sequence your trip to focus purely on the best moments.
Let's address the safety perception first. When some travelers hear Philippines, their minds immediately jump to extreme international travel advisories regarding terrorism or kidnapping. We need to localize this risk.
Right, look at what the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office actually says.
Okay.
The FCDO's strict advisories against all travel, or all but essential travel, are heavily concentrated on the western and central areas of Mindanao and the Sulu archipelago due to historical conflict and insurgency.
But Bohol is not there.
Bohol is in the central Visayas. It is far removed from those specific conflict zones. While the FCDO notes wider national risks like political demonstrations or natural hazards, meaning typhoons and earthquakes, the day-to-day threat level in Bohol rarely involves violent crime against tourists.
The real dangers are much more mundane.
The actual statistical threats to your safety in Bohol are road accidents, intense heat exhaustion, unpredictable marine currents, and petty theft.
Let's talk about the scooters. I see tourists renting mopeds who have clearly never ridden one in their life.
It is the most common cause of injury. The local transport guides emphasize that while renting a motorbike is cheap and common, the infrastructure is unforgiving.
Because the roads change.
You transition rapidly from smooth, paved coastal highways to rough, pothole-riddled interior roads covered in loose gravel. You're dealing with blind corners, wandering dogs, and aggressive larger vehicles.
And helmets.
Helmets are absolutely non-negotiable, though shockingly underused by tourists. A minor gravel rash can ruin your ability to swim for the rest of the holiday.
What about solo female travelers? What is the reality for them on the ground?
Solo female travelers report feeling very safe in Bohol, provided they manage their evening logistics. Alona Beach, despite its flaws, offers safety in numbers.
There are always people around.
Well-lit restaurants, active security at the major resorts. The risk increases if you base yourself in a quiet area like Loboc and try to navigate unlit provincial roads alone at night.
So use drivers.
Utilize hotel-arranged transport or pre-vetted drivers after dark rather than hailing random tricycles on empty roads.
And for medical emergencies.
Access to comprehensive medical care is highly centralized in Tagbilaran City and, to a lesser extent, on Panglao. If you are staying in the remote eastern town of Olinda and suffer a severe injury, you are facing a multi-hour drive to reach a major hospital.
Aside from physical safety, there are scams. But they aren't elaborate heists, they're just annoying friction points.
It's mostly commission-based friction. Inflated initial quotes from airport taxis, tricycle drivers demanding triple the standard rate because it's raining.
And the tour packages.
The most frustrating scam involves tour packages. You buy a complete countryside tour from a guy on the beach, only to arrive at the Chocolate Hills and realize the package only covered the driver.
You still have to pay the entrance fees.
All of them, out of pocket.
I think this is the perfect time to push back on a label. We've spent a long time talking about the difficulties of Bohol. But is Bohol actually a difficult destination in the grand scheme of global travel?
No, it is not. Compared to genuinely remote, off-the-grid island hopping in lesser-known parts of Indonesia or the deep Pacific, Bohol is highly developed.
So discomfort is.
Entirely structural and self-inflicted. It only becomes a difficult destination if you refuse to rent a scooter, refuse to pay the premium for a private driver, but still stubbornly demand to see every single attraction spread across a 100-kilometer radius.
You cannot have it both ways.
You either pay for the logistics or you radically scale back your itinerary.
If you do scale it back and you sequence it correctly, the highlights really do deliver.
Oh, absolutely. The Chocolate Hills are a geological marvel, provided you arrive at 7:30 a.m. before the heat and the crowds. Balicasag Island offers world-class snorkeling,
Turtles.
frequent sea turtle sightings, incredible coral drop-offs if you go between March and May when the visibility is perfect.
And the river.
The Loboc River is stunning, provided you experience it slowly, perhaps staying at a riverside lodge rather than rushing through the chaotic buffet cruise.
And the tarsiers.
The tarsiers are incredibly delicate, easily stressed nocturnal primates. Seeing them is only ethically and practically defensible if you visit the reputable official sanctuaries, maintain absolute silence, and turn off your camera flash.
Now for the medicine. The honest disappointments, the things you see on Instagram that simply do not live up to the hype when you arrive in 2026.
Number one is Alona Beach itself. The glossy promotional photos routinely crop out the reality.
The clutter.
Alona is deeply cluttered. The water's edge is often choked with dozens of motorized outrigger boats anchored right off the sand.
Which makes swimming hazardous and noisy.
The beach is crowded, the touts are relentless, and the pricing is heavily inflated. It is a hub of convenience, not a pristine natural escape.
What about Virgin Island? You see these drone shots of a perfect white sandbar surrounded by turquoise water.
Virgin Island is entirely dependent on the tide and crowd management. It has suffered from severe environmental degradation and over-commercialization in the past.
So timing matters.
If you visit at the wrong tide, the sandbar is submerged or unimpressive. If you visit during the peak midday boat window, it is swarming with hundreds of other tourists, completely ruining the secluded aesthetic.
And the Bilar man-made forest. It's on every single tour itinerary.
It is literally just a 2-kilometer stretch of mahogany trees planted along a highway.
That's it.
It is a nice visual break during a drive, but tourists treat it as a major destination, standing in the middle of an active road trying to take photos while avoiding oncoming traffic.
So it's just a quick stop.
It is a 5-minute photo stop, nothing
Yep.
more.
Having audited all of these realities, the final step is context. How does Bohol stack up against its direct competitors in the Philippines? Let's analyze the alternatives. Alternative number one, Siquijor.
Siquijor is an island further south. You should pivot to Siquijor if your primary goal is a simpler, less commercialized, single-island scooter loop.
It has beautiful beaches.
Beautiful, low-key beaches, excellent waterfalls, a distinctly laid-back vibe. Siquijor is a paradise for confident backpackers.
And cheaper.
Day-to-day, a practical budget there will run roughly $10 to $25 lower per day than a Panglao-based itinerary. It wins massively on simplicity because it lacks the massive centralized tourist traps.
But wait, Siquijor is cheaper and simpler. Why are we even talking about Bohol? It sounds like Siquijor is just better.
It's better for a specific demographic, but it requires a structural compromise. Siquijor has inferior airport access. Getting there usually requires flying into Dumaguete and taking a ferry.
So it's harder to get to.
It lacks the deep medical infrastructure of Tagbilaran. And it does not have the iconic, globally recognized geographical anomalies like the Chocolate Hills or the Tarsiers.
Bohol remains the superior choice if you specifically want that varied inland ecosystem and easier flight connections.
Exactly.
Okay, alternative number two, Coron, up in Palawan.
Coron is the destination for travelers who prioritize dramatic, vertical marine scenery.
The limestone cliffs.
If your dream is sailing through towering limestone lagoons, swimming in crystal-clear inland lakes, and doing world-class shipwreck diving, Coron absolutely beats Bohol.
The compromise with Coron.
Price and inland variety. Coron forces you onto a boat every single day. The best sites are entirely marine-based.
So you're constantly on tours.
Because you are constantly booking island-hopping tours, a mid-range traveler's daily budget in Coron is routinely $20 to $60 higher per day than in Bohol.
And if you hate boats.
If you hate boat dependency or if you get seasick, Coron will be miserable. Bohol wins for families or travelers who want a balanced mix. One day on the water, one day driving through the hills.
This brings us to the ultimate verdict. We are going to score Bohol out of 10 for 5 distinct types of travelers, based purely on the logistics, budgets, and weather data we've unpacked today.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the backpacker.
For the backpacker, Bohol scores a 7 out of 10.
Okay, 7.
It is definitively worth it, but only if you possess strict financial discipline.
Right.
It is worth it if you avoid the beachfront rooms, Base yourself in Tawala or Danao, rent a scooter to control your mobility, eat at Caranderias, and limit your paid tours to 2 highly curated days.
You must skip it if your expectation is effortless, cheap, walkable beachfront dorm life.
Yes, the anchor number is $45 to $75 a day. It is achievable, but it requires work.
Next, the mid-range traveler or couple.
For the mid-range demographic, Bohol scores an 8 out of 10. This is the strongest fit for the island.
8 out of 10, nice.
It is worth it if you establish a budget around $110 to $170 per person per day.
Right.
It is worth it if you select your accommodation based on the physical transport reality, deliberately balancing noise versus isolation, rather than just clicking on pretty photos.
You should skip it if you demand a hyper-polished, perfectly manicured island where every attraction is a 15-minute stroll away.
Exactly. The key metric is $220 to $340 a day for a couple. At this price point, Bohol offers a richer variety of activities than Siquijor.
The family verdict.
Families score 7 out of 10. Bohol is a good family destination, but it is not an effortless one.
Because of the transport.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is worth it if you spend the premium to secure a property with a fantastic pool, if you deploy private drivers to entirely eliminate tricycle transport stress, and if you ruthlessly edit the countryside tour to protect your children from midday heat exhaustion.
Skip it if your children cannot tolerate 2-hour van rides or unpredictable boat conditions.
Financial anchor is $260 to $520 a day. It beats Coron for activity mix, but it loses to a dedicated single resort stay in Thailand if the parents are desperately seeking pure rest.
What about the luxury traveler? Does a massive budget yield a perfect score?
No. The luxury traveler gets a 6 out of 10.
6.
The whole offers highly selective value at this tier. It is worth it if you book one of the premier Panglao resorts and fundamentally accept that the island environment outside your gated property remains logistically uneven.
Skip it if your definition of luxury requires VIP infrastructure everywhere you go, pristine private island silence, or ultra-developed luxury shopping zones.
The anchor is $300 to $650 a couple per day. That premium buys you a beautiful sanctuary, but it does not buy you immunity from road traffic, weather cancellations, or crowded viewing decks.
Finally, the digital nomad or long-term solo traveler.
This is a split verdict based on duration. For short stays of 2 to 4 rits, it scores a 7 out of 10. It functions well as a base where you can rent a scooter, work from cafes, and explore on weekends.
But for longer.
But for long stays of a month or more, it drops to a 5 out of 10.
Ouch.
You should skip it if you require deep, reliable co-working infrastructure or dense social networking. The anchor budget is $14.50 to $26.50 a month. The reality is that the Panglao bubble can feel intellectually and socially very thin after the first couple of weeks.
So we arrive at the overarching conclusion. I want to ask you, the listener, a very direct question. Are you the type of traveler who views a 2-hour drive through winding provincial countryside roads as an adventure, a chance to see how the locals actually live? Or do you view it as a frustrating obstacle standing between you and a photograph?
It's the ultimate test.
Because your honest answer to that question completely dictates whether you will love or hate Bohol. The island heavily rewards early starts, strategic transport planning, shoulder season flexibility, and realistic budgeting.
And it brutally punishes late bookers, travelers who refuse to arrange transport, tight ferry connections, and anyone who operates under the outdated assumption that the Philippines is cheap means everything is cheap, everywhere, all the time. You know, if we step back and look at the broader implications of this deep dive, it raises a really provocative thought about the nature of modern travel itself.
Oh.
We have spent an hour auditing the logistics, the crowds, the heat, and the financial traps. But we have to ask, is modern travel culture, this relentless, algorithmic obsession with executing the perfect, optimized social media checklist, actually destroying the destinations we claim to love?
It's the paradox of the must-see list.
Exactly. By constantly seeking the absolute best weather window in February and ruthlessly hunting down the exact same viewpoints in Carmen at the exact same time of day as everyone else, tourists are actively engineering the very crowds, the traffic congestion, and the inflated pricing that they complain so bitterly about in their reviews.
We create the problem.
We do. In this hyper-planned, anxious pursuit of the perfect photograph, we are entirely eliminating the space for serendipity.
Which is the best part of travel.
Some of the most profound, memorable moments on an island like Bohol are never going to be found at a crowded $3 viewing deck. They are found on an unplanned Tuesday afternoon, getting slightly lost on a scooter, pulling over to escape a sudden rain shower, and eating 20-cent sweet rolls at a roadside panaderia in a lesser-known village where absolutely no one is trying to sell you an ATV tour. When you overplan the logistics, you miss the island entirely.
If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day.
That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.